Today I will be talking about the climate changes in Brazil. Let's get started. Located in South America, Brazil is the fifth largest country in the world. The Pacific and Atlantic Ocean are the surrounding waters of this fascinating country. Brazil borders all countries of South America except Chile and Ecuador. The capital city of Brazil is Brasilia, located midwest of the country. Its largest cities include São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, which are located southeast of the country. As you can see on this graph, Brazil is the top 5th country in the world to have the biggest surface area. The total area of Brazil is 8,511,965 kilometers square. From north to south, Brazil spans 4,320 kilometers. From east to west, Brazil spans 4,328 kilometers. As of July 1st, 2014, Brazil's population is 202,033,670, which is equivalent to 2.79% of the world's total population. Brazil ranks number 5 in the list of countries by population. In this graph, the population will have increased dramatically by 2050. The population density is 24 people per kilometer square. 85% of the population is urban, and the median age is around 30 years. This year alone, there has been 898,646 births and 321,270 deaths. 49.2% of Brazil's entire population is male, and 50.8% is female. Brazil has many major industries. Some of them include iron and steel production, automobile assembly, petroleum processing, chemical production, and finally cement making. Brazil's geography is a fascinating one. As the home of the acclaimed Amazon rainforest, as well as the Brazilian highlands and vast stretches of coastline, this South American country continues to impress and attract visitors in its natural splendor and complexity. The shores of Brazil coastline still continue to be a major tourist attraction for the country because it is made up of mangroves, lagoons, dunes, and spectacular coral reefs. The Amazon rainforest is a very important part of the world's natural resources. It is home to an estimated 1/3 of all known animal species and makes up about half of the world's rainforests. The Amazon River carries more water into the Atlantic Ocean than any other river does to any other body of water. This river winds for more than 3,200 kilometers within the country and holds about 1/5 of the world's freshwater. At its narrowest point, the river is 1.6 kilometers wide and some 48 kilometers at its widest during the wet season. The Amazon basin occupies about 2/3 of the country's area. Brazil is particularly abundant in rivers and boasts 8 major drainage basins. These basins direct their water into the Atlantic Ocean. There are 12 major hydrographic regions in Brazil, 7 of which have dominant rivers. The Brazilian highlands, also known as the Brazilian Plateau, are in general under 4,000 feet above sea level. They cover most of the central, eastern, and southern parts of the country and are home to an astounding array of fauna and flora. The highest point in Brazil is Pico de Neblina, which measures an impressive 9,888 feet, which is equivalent to 3,014 meters. The huge center plateau, Planalto Central, is approximately 1,000 meters with majority of the coastline compromises the Great Escarpment, which gives those looking at the shore from the sea the impression that they're looking at a huge, imposing wall. The highlands are really a great view to experience when you're visiting Brazil. Some of Brazil's sources of emissions include deforestation, land use, and agriculture. These produce energy and consume energy as well, that cause greenhouse gases. In 1975, sugar prices went down, which caused an oil crisis. There were heavy investments in hydropower, biomass power, and ethanol. The government saw opportunity in renewable energy sources. They began to develop hydroelectric facilities, which is where most of the country's energy production comes from. They say that energy emissions could be reduced by less than 25%. Brazil is the world's second worst emitter of GHG, greenhouse gases, from deforestation, about 1.4 billion tons per year. The Amazon rainforest is the biggest in the world, spanning 5.4 million kilometers, part of 4 countries in South America. 62% of the Amazon in Brazil is being destroyed because of deforestation, and as of 2001 has lost 120,000 kilometers square. Climate change has a massive impact on the health of the forest. As a matter of fact, it has an impact on 38 to 45% of the plant species in Brazil's central savannas. On average, 1.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide is absorbed in the Amazon rainforest each year. During 2005 and 2010, almost 13 gigatons of carbon dioxide were emitted by forest fires because of drought. However, Brazil has an overall sustainability success story. There has been an overall decrease in GHGs, and emissions have been the lowest in decades. Surprisingly, because of the increase in population and GDP and energy intensity. The reason behind the reduction is the cutback and deforestation in the Brazilian woodlands and forests. The government of Brazil plans to reduce emissions by 36 to 40% by 2020. This reduction in emissions has been forecasted by the National Climate Change Policy, which has been launched in the year 2009. For some countries, this change would be impossible or too dramatic, but this is only just the next step. Brazil has decreased deforestation in the Amazon enough over the past 5 years to lower heat emissions more than anywhere in the world. Deforestation has been reduced by 65% since the turn of the millennium. Brazil has been carving and leading the way for the other countries to a greener future. Deforestation has not only affected Brazil's climate change, but also soil erosion, food security, and costly weather damage. However, Brazil can combat these climate changes for the future. They can first increase efficiency in economic sectors, second, continue to develop renewable energy, third, encourage use of biofuels in transportation, fourth, continue to reduce deforestation rates, fifth, achieve illegal deforestation, sixth, eliminate net loss of forest coverage by 2015, and seven, research and identify strategies to minimize equity costs. Biomass and ethanol support a major part of Brazil's energy needs. Therefore, land needs to be allocated for their use. But with the growing population, this stresses land availability. There are a couple options. Brazil can further invest in hydroelectricity because they have good experience with it, and it will be good for the environment, lowering GHG levels. This takes the weight off biomass generation and ethanol production, which will increase in space and agriculture land, which leads to decrease in deforestation and less destroyed for pastures. 1 hectare of rainforest is worth over $8,000 that is divided between sustainable harvesting for fruit, latex, and timber, commercial clean-cut timber, cattle pasture. But the Amazon rainforest is much more valuable to the world as a rainforest and also to Amazonian countries than lumber and wheat. The climate of Brazil depends on the various areas, elevation, and proximity to the ocean. However, most of the country can be defined as being tropical and subtropical. In general, this means hot, humid conditions, although some areas can be fairly dry and even fall victim to the occasional droughts. Many areas experience only a wet season and a dry one instead of 4 distinct seasons. Brazil is a beautiful country, rich in cultures, colors, flavors, languages, and customs. But as with any country in the world, Brazil has its fair share of social issues, which its people and government no doubt work hard to resolve. These issues include poverty, crime, lack of education, and infant mortality. Poverty. The richest 10% of people in Brazil have access to over 40% of the country's income. On the other hand, the poorest 10% receive about 1% of the income. This paints a grim picture for those with little or no financial stability. And visitors to the country will likely attest to the fact that the poverty is visible and tangible, even to the outlookers. The slums of the metropolitan are known as favelas and are common, while the remote areas of the upcountry are also clearly financially strained. Crime. Although all major cities and countries in the world experience some form of crime, Brazil is particularly susceptible to this major social issue. The most common forms of crime in this country include mugging, robbing, kidnapping, and gang violence. In addition to the crime within the community, there is also a problem with the law enforcement divisions, with corruption and violence being inflicted by the police themselves. This discourages the community to report incidents of violence, as they have little fear or of respect for the police. Therefore, the Ministry of Justice created the National Public Security Force to handle major emergencies and crises instead of the local police forces. Lack of education. Brazil's children have access to free public education at all levels. Education at a primary level is compulsory, and most of the primary schools are maintained by the municipalities or the states that they occupy. This means that the wealthier cities or states have better schools than the poorer counterparts, and the children suffer because of the lack of adequate amenities and resources. This in turn means that the poorer children receive a lower level of education. Many children do not attend school because of the malnutrition, as this makes them unable to develop intellectually and to adjust to the social environment of school. Child labor amongst poor children is also an enormous problem, despite its being technically illegal to employ a child less than 16. Infant mortality. The infant mortality rate, IMR of Brazil, is another social issue that is crucial to address, which it has been in recent years. Infant mortality rates are directly proportional to sanitation, education, and the financial income of the family. As these factors improve over time, so the IMR has been decreasing. I strongly believe that Canada can make a huge difference for now, so that we may have a brighter and more healthier future. By teaming up with WWF